Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of June 2025. I hope you are well. I hope you had a good birthday season. Can't remember if I wished you a happy birthday in the last set of readings. If I didn't, my apologies. Happy belated birthday to you. If I twitch my head around weirdly while we're talking here, it's because there are, there's at least one fly in here that is dive bombing my head, and it's it's a bit jarring. Anywho, what to tell you? I'm using the Wildwood Tarot for you today, which is interesting. This hasn't had an outing in a while. Other things, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access via link in the description box below. You are looking for the link that either takes you to Selfie or to Circle. You are not looking for the channel memberships, right? Because that's something entirely separate. So please make sure that you're selecting the right link for you. Over at Selfie you can purchase just the one video if that's what you want to see, the extended. Over on Circle there's no additional fee beyond the membership cost, and you can see all of the extended content, including the weekly energy readings that I do, and get the opportunity also to participate in live classes that we run on all sorts of modalities. So if that sounds like it's of interest to you, all the information that you need is down in the description box below. So let's flip this around. Oh, what's going on here? Let's take a moment to just check that all these cards are the right way up, because I'm pretty disciplined about that. It means that when cards show up reversed, it's because they really have a reversed message to share. Now, I happen to think that the cards land just wherever they may, but it gives an added level of importance, I think, to the reversals when they do show up. If I have made the effort to make sure they were the right way around. I really should have done this before I started the video rolling, but there we go. We ballin'. It's been a while since this deck's been out, so it's just been sat on the side there. Right, I think we're good. Oh, we are. So, with all of that nonsense out of the way, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Taurus, please? Cards for Taurus. After all that, the deck says no. Let's try again. Come on. Oh, right. We have the 8 of Pentacles in your recent past. Took a bit of pulling out, that one. Okay, what about current energy for Taurus? Yeah, always happens that way. King of Swords and 9 of Wands. That's very interesting, and I'll share with you why that's interesting in a second. And then what is coming towards Taurus, please, for June? What does Taurus need to know about June? What does Taurus need to know about June? Wow. Okay, well that's the card that we want, and it's flown right over there, so give me a second. There are neither high production values here on this channel, nor slick polished anything. So we have the Magician, but also we have the Ten of Swords and we have the Devil, and I feel like we should just put those to the side because they jumped out to the right, and generally speaking I don't take cards when they come out to the right because it feels a little bit like they've fallen out rather than jumped out. But those two came out together, and there is a significance about that I also want to share with you as well. Let's have a look and see what's at the bottom of the deck. Specifically about the Ten of Swords anyway. We've got the 4 of Cups, so I'm going to shift that fly out of the way and put this over here. I'll tidy all of this up in a moment so it's a little less glaring to have to look at. But we'll notice that there's quite a lot of competing energies going on at the moment, and I think that's probably very much in keeping with what the experience of June is going to be like. I would expect to a degree May as well, right, because we're talking about your fairly recent past. Let's get some clarifiers out and then we'll try and weave all of this together. Tell me about this 8 of Pentacles. Why is this here for Taurus? Well, there you are. We have the King of Pentacles and we have the Hanged Man reversed. Tell me about the King of Swords and the 9 of Wands, please. Why is this? Fucking hell. What is going on, Taurus? I'm going to put all of these back because that's a ludicrous number of cards, but they all seem to be vomiting their way out of the deck today. Right, we've got the Page of Wands. And we have the Queen of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. Tell me about the Shaman, which is the Magician, please. Magician, the Star, and the Ace of Pentacles. Right, it's very clear to me exactly what is going on here, but it's going to take a little bit of pulling it all apart so that you can see how it resonates with your own. Do you know, I really don't like the word journey when it's used in this context, but actually that is the one that is applicable here. You know, everybody's got a fucking journey. I mean, you try and get a recipe off the internet and you get to hear somebody's journey about how they fucking discovered this fucking recipe for baked potatoes in the Andes or something like that, right? You know, it's rather overused, and I think to a degree it's a little bit tedious. However, there are situations where it applies correctly, and I think this is one of them. And when I'm talking about journey, I mean, maybe you could put in the word story instead, right? Whatever works for you. But let's start first with the two cards that have really pricked my attention on account of the fact that I have actually just recorded this morning the weekly energies, which ran to an hour and a half, which was absolutely fucking insane. Both the Ten of Swords and the King of Swords showed up prominently in that reading. That's why I've left them out, because I do feel like... so I'm recording this on the 25th of May. And I do feel like this coming week, which is to say the 26th of May to the 1st of June, is representing some sort of pivotal point where the energies are very airy. There's a lot of thinking going on, there's a lot of thought going on, but more than that, it feels like there is a renegotiation of what reality actually is going on. And the Ten of Swords represented an old way of thinking about what reality actually is, what we're doing here as humans on this planet, you know, what is meaningful to us, what is not. And also the extent to which we have allowed, you know, the devilish energies of the... How would I put this? The prison of the material, right, to inform our thinking, right? Keeps it very narrow, keeps it very very much in a lane. And I feel very strongly that this week all of that is going to start bursting out. And there was a specific message for Taurus in that weekly energies reading, which was let your weird light shine. Like, really let your weird light shine. The King of Swords, as well as talking about the way that we think about things like the nature of reality and what we're doing here and all that kind of thing, is as much about what we consent to allow ourselves to see versus what we do not consent to allow ourselves to see. And be under no illusions, your brain is absolutely in the background filtering everything. And I think that we're all starting to become aware of the extent to which it is getting filtered, right? That's the long and short of it. And so if we choose to look outside of our material experience, we're starting to see something else beginning to emerge. Now, to have, you know, those two cards that featured so prominently in the weekly reading also showing up here in the Taurus reading. And additionally, I would say that I actually said to Taurus that I thought that they were going to be the ones, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, who would have had the most issue with transition, such as we find ourselves in 2025. And actually the reverse of that has been true. Like, Taurus has very fluidly allowed their energy to move into the new, and I think that you're very much getting ready to be architects of, and certainly participants in, the creation of whatever the new actually is, because what we've got is a shifting of human consciousness. And you're here, you're part of it. We start off with your recent past here with the Eight of Pentacles. Now that strictly is a Virgo card, but I mean it's Pentacles, it's Earth, right? And it talks about skill, it talks about mastery, and directly underneath it we have the Taurus card of the King of Pentacles, right? Now the King of Pentacles is about taking responsibility, and particularly in matters of resources and material things, but it isn't limited to just that, right? Because the Pentacles for me represent investment. So if anything can be invested, it becomes a pentacle to my mind. So the King of Pentacles is someone who is adept, one might even say a master, at working out what is worth investing in and what is not. This is one of the reasons why he has the ability to be able to work so diligently towards an end result. And delay gratification to make that happen, because he understands the importance of what he is growing from the ground up into something bigger. It's funny, it's puts me in mind of that definition of wisdom is a man who plants a tree knowing he'll never get to sit underneath the shade of it, right? He doesn't do it for himself, he does it for these higher reasons. I'm going to shut the fucking window because I can cope with the fly, but I cannot cope with the fly and the sound of machinery going on out there. I don't even know what it is, but... So what we have here, and particularly with this handband reversed, and I want you to pay real close attention to this, Taurus, because I think one of the things that has afflicted Taurus is the uncertainty that they were ever good enough for X, Y, and Z, right? It's possibly one of the reasons why you'd put so much effort into, you know, appearing to be the most thoughtful, appearing to be, you know, the one who was most competent, all this kind of, or actually the most competent. But we know that a lot of this came from Four of Cups kind of energy, right? It's not wanting to be left out, it's wanting to be a part of everything. It's wanting almost to be lost in the masses of everyone, because there's safety in numbers with all this sort of stuff, right? But one of the things that's been changing for Taurus definitely over the last 5 years, is that willingness to stand apart from the herd at such points as is required. Now, if we take the last 5 years as a training ground, which I think very strongly, I do strongly believe that this is the case. The last 5 years have been a training ground for everyone. Whether or not people have chosen to participate in the training or not is a different question, but I would imagine if you're sitting here and listening to me, you're one of those who has chosen to do that. There's a great deal of skill and competence that has been built up over the last 5 years, and I'm not talking about what you do for a job or anything even remotely like that. I'm talking about the business of being a Taurus, right? The pure expression of Taurus, which is solid and strong, stable and secure. And in fact, the point at which the entire zodiac makes contact with the earth, in my opinion at least, right? It's fixed earth. It's the foundation upon which everybody else builds. And I think I do remember making this same sort of observation back in 2020 when I was like, I don't understand why Taurus is being pushed so hard and so fast to change. Right? It seems to me almost cruel, the extent to which they're being asked to change and level up, when they are the ones who would like to take it slowly and methodically and do it in their own time and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't something that was offered to you. But nevertheless, we find ourselves now in 2025 with 5 years of training, half a decade of training, where you are fundamentally different to who you were 5 years ago. I mean, in reality, you're probably fundamentally different to who you were a year ago, but let's use that 5-year period as a marker here. And all of this time where you've been in training, you've been honing your craft, honing your skill, honing your self-awareness, honing your confidence, honing your willingness, your ability to be solid, stable and secure within yourself, not controlling your environment, but within yourself. To the extent that now, as the cards are saying quite neatly here, it's time for you to get down off the tree. Now, you know, when we talk about the Hanged Man here, it's given to be quite a good card, actually, right? It talks about illumination, it talks about enlightenment, but it talks about those things in terms of suspending yourself somewhere very fucking uncomfortable and surrendering to that process to achieve the illumination, right? Well, we've had this. The reason why it's a good card is because there is some illumination generally that's at the end of this very uncomfortable period. Once the Hanged Man shows up in reverse, what we have is a realization that illumination, to the extent that it is required, has been achieved. Mastery, to the extent which is required, has been achieved. Skill, competence, dedication, commitment, you know, the important work up to the point that we find ourselves right now has been achieved internally. And perhaps now it is time to get down off the tree. And where we were passive, observing, witnesses to something, now it's time to actively participate in it. Because the Hangman is the most passive card in the tarot, right? By design, right? You're going to literally hang there until you see things from a different perspective. Here, you have permission to get down off the tree. There is no further skill that needs to be mastered. There is no further mastery that needs to be furthered, right? We got exactly what we need at the point that we need it. And now what is shifting is the need for you to trust that whatever you have, whatever you've worked on, whatever you've worked through, you are now at the point where your judgment holds a lot of weight. Your assessment of circumstances holds a lot of weight. And it's time for you to get into the building phase rather than the deconstructing phase, because you've been deconstructing for a long time, Taurus. Now, this is not to say that there have not been achievements in the interim, because I'm almost certain that there have been. But now there's a push coming, and it feels like it's a really big push. The issue might be that, just as we've been saying for 2, maybe 3 years now, I can't even remember, right? We don't have a map for what this looks like. Taurus would like a map, would like to follow the directions to, you know, a particular outcome. But the liberation is in the fact that no map exists. You get to write the map. Right? We talked about this 2 or 3 years ago. It's resurfacing as a very strong message right now. Now it's time for you to get down off the tree and actually start actioning something. Now, the King of Pentacles always starts with some sort of end in mind, and he kind of retro-engineers the steps that are required for him to get from A to B, or indeed A to Z, depending on what the situation is. But what you're involved in now involves you digging even deeper than you have done before. Not to follow a map from A to B or A to C or B to C or whatever it is, but to say, in this moment, I'm not entirely sure what the end result would look like, and that's okay. But I want it to feel like this. I want it to have components of that. I want it to look very, very different to where we have been. And with all the experience that I have in mind, with everything that I have learned, not just over the last 5 years, but actually that incredible repository of knowledge that you have, which is your lived experience. God, I fucking hate that phrase, right? Your experience up until the last 5 years. With everything that you know, with everything that you have mastered, with everything that you have learned, and with everything that you are now exhibiting a level of competency within, are you ready to start spreading that message? Start sharing that out a little bit? Because I think that the cards are saying that it's time. Now, where the discomfort is, and there is some discomfort here, is, like I said, we don't actually know what the end result is. And so to some extent, you are, well, you know, we actually see it here in the star. There's a great deal of trust that is needed to be demonstrated by you in the idea, conceptually, that whatever feels meaningful and purposeful for you, that's the direction of travel. Now, you may find yourself being completely at odds with everybody that you know at this point, right? In the month of June, where you're like, I am feeling pulled this way, and I'm going to go this way. And everybody else is going, are you fucking insane? Where is the security? Where is the stability? Where's the predictability and reliability within this new plan that you have created? And Taurus is going to have to be able to say, I trust that everything is going to be fine. I am following the purpose. Now, I think 5 years ago, that would have been a very, very difficult thing for you to do. To an extent, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, that might have been a very difficult position for you to take. But it feels so integral to you now. I don't think that you're going to feel like you have a choice but to do exactly that I'm speaking about here. Because just as we saw in the Ten of Swords in the weekly energies reading that I just did, we've got an idea of Sun in Gemini, right? So we've got illumination of the integration of different perspectives. We're starting to see where our thinking has been very limited, and now we're moving on to a whole different way of thinking about things. And it was limited deliberately. We see the Devil card there. It's called Guardian in this deck. Making us move from a place of fear, making us think from a place of fear, maybe even making us communicate from a place of fear, right? Which is not being too much. And we've also talked about that over the years, Taurus, right? You are designed to take up space. You are designed to be seen. You are designed to be the bull in the field. You're designed so that nobody fucks with you, or if they try to fuck with you, they're probably going to come off pretty fucking badly, you know? And whilst you are not the same as everybody else, part of what you are is similar, but made deliberately much more powerful so that you can help, protect, elevate, look after, guide, shepherd, take whatever word you want to use, those others who were kind of like you but not. Right, I'm thinking about the bulls and the cows. So Taurus, you thought you were a cow for the longest time. You're not a fucking cow, you're a bull, right? You're allowed to act like a bull. In fact, it's almost incumbent upon you to act like a bull, right? You can't be walked over. You can't be pushed or shoved or, you know, manipulated into any particular position. The position that you hold is yours, and it's proper that you hold it. You have something in common with the cows, but you're not a cow. But they look to you for leadership. Now, I've been talking about this feeling that I have about teacher, leader, guide for quite a long time. And it's not limited to Taurus. We're seeing evidence of this almost across the board, right? Across all of the signs. But there are ways in which we are being asked to be the pure form of whatever we represent, right? So in your case, pure Taurus, in my case, pure Leo, so on and so forth. Because we don't have all of the pieces of the puzzle, but we represent, for example, 1/12 of what the solution to the puzzle might be. So what's happening here is you're being pushed up, you're being leveled up. You're not being asked to do Leo stuff. You're not being asked to do Pisces stuff or Virgo stuff or anything no, pure Taurus. What do you do? What are you good at? What have you honed this skill of over the last 5 years? And how much of this has been done internally, in peace and quiet, without, really sharing that much with other people? I think what's shifting here is that it is time for you to start to share. Again, like I said in the weekly reading, it's time for you to start letting your weird light shine, whatever that is, because it is in the ways which you are different to everybody else in the field that is important. It's there that your purpose is represented, right? A bull who tries to pass himself off as a cow is not going to fulfill his purpose, right? It's quite literally the opposite of what he's here to do. And so it is with you. So we're talking about raw authenticity, we're talking about raw vulnerability, but we're talking about the strength that comes in the absolute ownership of that, right? Willing to stand apart where it is necessary. So in your current energy, we come to the King of Swords and the Nine of Wands. And this is quite interesting, right? Not least because the King of Swords has already showed up, as I said, but because it represents the sign of Aquarius. But it also represents this very bold, two very important things. A bold exploration of new ideas, right? Held very lightly so they can be explored. It represents critical thinking. It represents definitely a lack of gullibility or anything like that, right? It's just an ability to be able to process that information and further then make really strong conscious decisions based on what it is that you know. Now, we've already established that you know a lot and you have become a purer form of Taurus than you ever have been before. But it's showing up here with the Nine of Wands. Now, in the Wildwood Tarot, the Nine of Wands, well, actually all of the cards have little keywords next to them. And the one with this one is respect. Now, the question of respect, I think, is quite it's been possibly a little thorny for you, Taurus, over the years. Because I do not feel like this is an exhortation to you that you must respect everybody else in the world. Because I think you respecting other people has never really been an issue, right? What has been an issue, though, is you believing that other people respect you. And then by extension, the fact that whatever you say has some kind of weight for people. You know, it's always been astonishing to me, like in a conversation with a Taurus, you present some sort of issue and the Taurus will immediately have the answer to it, right? You're amazing solution-oriented thinkers. And the person that you're talking to, that you've just presented this solution to, might well go, oh, wow, holy shit, I didn't think about that. But then, because there's a fear that maybe you've said too much, you've pushed too much, you've been a bit of a bulldozer in this situation, what I've noticed about Tauruses is that they will either then keep talking in a way that tries to justify the position that they've taken and the solution that they've presented, or they backtrack and say, oh, but you've got to make up your own mind. And it's interesting. It's really, really interesting because I think your immediate reaction is the right one. But stuff here from your past, as represented by the Four of Cups, has always led you to second guess that immediate good judgment that you have on something. I'm sure most Tauruses won't need to dig too far to come up with a time where they were presented with an issue, they had an immediate reaction to it, and then they talked themselves out of that immediate reaction, and then sometime along the way castigate themselves for not having just followed their gut in the first instance. The message here between these two cards is, can you respect the fact that you as you understand you are different to how you have been before? And that your ability to exercise good judgment, right, make a really good decision in the moment, is something that other people will look up to and be inspired by. At the very least, just be inspired by. You know, I spoke at the beginning about how astonishing it was, like how I've changed my position in just a few short years about who was going to find this transitional phase the easiest You know, if you'd asked me then, I would have been like, well, it's probably Sagittarius and probably Pisces, right? The mutable signs have definitely got the jump on everyone else. Gemini maybe as well, right? These mutable signs have got the jump on everybody else. It's going to be very, very difficult for fixed signs, probably a little less difficult for the cardinal signs, right? And so then of the fixed signs, Aquarius probably adapt very easily. Scorpio, maybe Leo to an extent, but like Leo's pretty fucking solidly holding on to things, like clinging on with dear life with claws and teeth, you know. Taurus were going to be the one that really fucking suffered. But you've had a Uranus moving through your sign for 8 years. Uranus has shaken things up so much now that you do go with the flow. You are not rigidly fixed. And you have, like I said last year, you seem to have relocated yourself almost with ease. Not necessarily geographically, but maybe geographically, right? Into an entirely different paradigm. And everybody's like, what the fuck did Taurus just do? Why is Taurus over there and we're still over here? That doesn't make any sense. And yet, that's where we are. So whether you know it or not, you've been inspiring people for quite a long time anyway now. But there's something about the way that this is turning from an inward state to an outward guidance. Not just in the moment offering a solution, but something altogether more significant than that. That is literally tapping on your forehead now, Taurus. And the only thing that's missing from the equation to make this happen is the amount of belief that you have in yourself right now. Now, I don't think it's missing. I think it just needs building up a little bit. And the build-up is going to come from looking at what the fuck it is you have achieved in the last year. Because I would think across all Tauruses, right, the achievements may be big or they may be small from an objective perspective. But from a subjective perspective, like for all of you, you have shifted so fucking hard, right? That fluidity that I was talking about, the flexibility coming in, that you have voluntarily changed all sorts of things that previously you would have held rigid because it would have made you feel safer to do so. I think to a bull, all Tauruses have put themselves out of their comfort zone and to some degree or another felt the benefit of that. But more importantly, to a bull, you have all shifted your consciousness up at least a level, if not several. I mean, I don't know what the scale is, right? But we're talking about huge leaps forwards here. Now, there need to be people to follow you. Or at least there need to be people who can follow in your footsteps. And I do think that any hesitation that you feel here right now is a product of the old, rather than a realistic and objective assessment about what it is that you have actually achieved in the last year. And so, as homework, if you like, Taurus, I would like you to go back over this last year, maybe 18 months, and log, right? Because you like to write notes. I've done enough personal readings with you all to know you keep extensive notes. Log. What has changed for you in the last 18 months? Now, I'm not necessarily talking about, things that have changed that have been outside of your control, but I am talking about where things have changed that are outside of your control and you have perceived an opportunity rather than a loss. That's counting as the sort of thing that I'm talking about here, because you've not been rigidly holding on to everything. You've been like, okay, well, this is ending, this is transitioning, and so I'm going to move smoothly into this thing over here. It may have taken a lot of work. It may have been very, very uncomfortable, but you did it, and that's the important thing. Now, all of this has been simply to get you to the point that you're sitting at now, right? Where you are right now was never going to be the end destination. It's simply, the first bit. Like I said, you've been in training, and now's the point where all of this is going to start coming out. Now, this might be quite literally in terms of some of you becoming mentors for others, offering services that you do to others, right? This is entirely possible. But I think it's spiritually and energetically something altogether bigger than that. There's something about the way that you're owning all of your bigness, Taurus, right? All of your visibility, all of your strength. You're positioning yourself in a way that people can not only see you and be inspired by you, but some aspect of you here is offering out a hand to others to help them start the process of doing the same themselves. You know, we've got the Page of Wands here, which is about, it's a precursor to movement. Like we see the movement happening in the Knight of Wands there, and it's, you know, it's swift and all that sort of thing. But the Page of Wands is everything up to the first step. And when I turned this card over, and that it doesn't happen very often that this pops into my head, as soon as I saw that card, I thought a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step, right? So Confucius, is it Confucius? I think it's Confucius, right? A little Confucius piece of wisdom. You may feel like you have walked 1,000 miles already, Taurus, but it's really all just been preparing you for what comes next, right? The journey, the big part of the story. And although you don't really know where it is that you are going, it does feel like there's an increasing... There's a feeling of the energy starting to build that's quite strong. Now, we don't really know what we're going to do with it. Queen of Wands here, right? She would be the one to make sense of what actions we take moving forward. But it is also Aries energy, right? So we've got the engagement of initiatory energy going on. But in order to get there fully, I have to not only respect but also honour what is magnificent about you, Taurus. Like, you have to really own it. Not just pay lip service to it, not just thanks when somebody praises you, but just take a moment to look at what you have fucking done. And just be like, wow, I did that. And maybe for a lot of you, you didn't know where you were going when you did that, whatever that is. And I would think to an extent, not all of you knew if it was a gamble that was going to pay off. Page of Pentacles on its side. It's like, here's the value, here's the direction, here's where we start something. Think it's all been a bit of a whirlwind, but in the middle of it, there you have been, whether you felt it or not, as a pillar of competence, right? Like a rock of competence in the middle of everything. And then we move into June, where we have the Magician, we have the Star, and we have the Ace of Pentacles. Now, this is important, Taurus. This is really important, because the combination of these three cards here is the creation of a new paradigm for you, right? A new kind of reality we're talking about. Flies make me feel distinctly un-Buddhist, right? The Magician is represented by, or the energy of the Magician represents the planet Mercury, right? And it's about intelligence. It's about a whole new kind of divine intelligence that I think that is working through you, Taurus. But more so, you know, more than just sort of observing that or witnessing that. This is more about the, you know, the active creation of stuff. Like, if ever there was a point in your life, Taurus, where it would pay off to believe in yourself, it feels to me like it's June. And I'm fairly certain that there are many, myriad examples of periods in your life where you really needed to believe in yourself to get through, right? And you pulled it off, and quite often in retrospect it's considerably less scary than it was, you know, while you were kind of contemplating it. I think that's one of the things that you've learned, is that, like, you can cope with just about anything, really. You're strong enough. You're big enough for that. But this is quite important because of how reality seems to be rapidly deconstructing, which is to say, probably more accurately, the parameters of reality within which you have been operating are breaking down quite rapidly. They're being replaced with whatever you think they can be. Because the power of the magician lies in his imagination. He is bound only by the limits of his imagination, and he combines that power, his intent, his will, with the energy of the aces, which are all seeds. And he says, this is what I'm going to create. So the question for you actually hinges on the star, Taurus. You sometimes hear that question, like, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? It's a really good way of just simply cutting through your own bullshit to get to what you actually want. Because it's the fear of failure more often than not that stops us even trying to do a thing. You are way past that point now. But just in case there is a little bit of residual bullshit left in your system, like, let's ask the question, if you knew you could not fail, Taurus, what would you be doing right now? Because the only thing that's really important for you to get a hold of this month is what is meaningful, what feels purposeful to you, and what is it that you are willing to put all of your, sizable Taurus energy behind building. Knight of Cups there, like, what touches you on a deep emotional level, and what thing compels you to share that? The Star card here with the Knight of Cups is asking you to tap deep into your soul, right? With none of the bullshit of, oh, well, I might not be able to do that because I'd need loads of money, or, I couldn't do this because, it would need somebody with a lot more experience than I've got. Like, I just push all of that to one side and say, if you could not fail, what would you do? Now, there's something kind of confrontational about that, because you have to care about this enough that the fear of failure is something that would really fucking sting. And that's why most people avoid it. But in your case, it's like, you've got to make contact with that. Because I do think that if you begin the process of putting your attention on something, right, because attention is a pentacle, you are sowing the seed of something that you want of a reality that you want to participate in future, right, by way of fucking creating it right here, right now. Over the years, I've told that story time and time again about there's a chap who invented the light bulb. And I think it was like, I don't know if this is apocryphal, right? But on his 100th attempt, he actually managed to make the light bulb. And he was interviewed by a journalist afterwards, and he said, how do you feel that it's taken you 99 attempts before you actually got it correct? You failed 99 times. And the chap responded, I didn't fail 99 times. I found 99 ways not to make a light bulb. That kind of mindset shift is what marks the truly wise out, the truly brave out, I think. You are, Taurus, truly wise, and we only have to look at the last 5 years to see that you are truly brave. we already know that you seem to be sitting on the other side of the Rubicon. The rest of us all, trying to find a way to get across the river and get to you. So if you've sloughed off entirely what it was that was creating this I know what I like and I like what I know tiny little bit of real estate in the universe that has been the Taurian experience. I'm comfortable here, I like it here, I'm not going to do anything else. You've grown to such a point that you have been consistently pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And now you're ready to build. Now you are ready to create. But you cannot aim low with this one. Like when we're seeing the star card, we're not just talking about, oh, I'd like to increase my net income by 10 grand a year. Like we're talking about, I'm going to start my own fucking business and it's going to be wildly successful and I am going to work fucking 90 hours a week to make sure that it is so. Right? Huge. Whatever the spiritual equivalent of that is, because I don't feel for a lot of you it's setting up your own business, but it might be setting up your own business, particularly if your business is in some way advisory or guidance or consultancy, something like that. Like we are taking things right up to the next level and it is insufficient for you to pitch low. Like it's just, you can't have this much big energy playing out and aim small. That would have been you 10 years ago. It's like, well, okay, this is my comfort zone, we'll just stretch it just a little bit. No, this is exploding the comfort zone because you're now in the creative act of, I want to make a thing, and to some extent, like this is going to be my legacy. Now, whether it's an actual legacy or whether this is your gift to the collective unconscious and you are fucking right in there, it's important. It's important to aim big because you have shown again and again and again, even if you haven't really sat and thought about it that much, you have shown again and again and again that what you dedicate yourself to is what gets created. We're looking for the new thing to dedicate yourself to, and it has to be so pure, Taurus, like purely you, not... It's a project of the new thinking. It's not a project of the old thinking, right? That would have been influenced by family or friends or school teachers or university professors or society as a whole. Like this is a project of pure Taurian love. And it needs to be big. Because in some ways this is a gift to everybody else, a gift to the collective. You've got to strip down all of the bullshit, get it down to the bones. What is totally fucking real about what you feel purposeful about. And it doesn't matter if it feels slightly out there or slightly ridiculous, like, go big. Aim for the stars. You might hit the moon along the way, but in your case, Taurus, it's more likely that you'll just fucking take out each one of those fucking stars and then some after it as well, you know? Think big. Think really, really big. Because reality is shifting, reality is changing, and what was doesn't have the same substance that it did anymore. We need to take advantage of this malleability and create something better, you know? So I'm going to go to the extended now. Fuck me, I've been blathering on for ages. I'm so sorry, Taurus. I'm going to go to the extended. If you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. We're going to look specifically at this month. Just have a look, see if there's anything you need to be aware of, any potential challenges. I think that any challenges, if you meet them, they're in here. They are of the nature of self-doubt or second guessing or things like that, and they need to be torpedoed immediately as soon as they show up, because this is a point where you're being asked to get very, very focused indeed, because you can move mountains this month, or certainly at least make some big headway into getting those shifted. So if you would like to join me over there, feel free to click any of the links below. You're looking for Selfie or you're looking for Circle, you are not looking for YouTube channel memberships. They are something different. So I'd be delighted to see you in any of these places though. Yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.